Many of you watched my video yesterday using the Yetis in Legend League. You now know that it is still one of the best attack strategies at Town Hall 13, but many of you also asked for a little bit more of an in-depth tutorial for it. So that is what we're providing today. We have a couple of brilliant replays using this strategy. I will teach you everything you need to know in order to get 3 stars with it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, the first thing I want to explain to you is army composition. What troops should you take? Now this is interchangeable based on the design itself, however broadly speaking you want to take 4 to 5 Yetis. I tend to take 5 and then 3 to 4 P.E.K.K.A. I tend to take 4, but it depends on how many troops you need for funneling. It depends on cleanup. Some people will actually take bowlers alongside the Yetis. It all depends on if there's single target infernos, you might opt for the bowlers, but just know they are more susceptible to scattershot if you can't get to them splash defenses early. Plus, if you don't have very good bowler bounce value, you might want to reconsider it, but it is dependent on the base. And the other main factor is your healers. You're going to want 5 healers because you really need them to stay alive getting through the attack itself. I will be sure to cover spells as well as part of this, but let's go ahead and dive into the strategy itself. If you're new here, you want to see daily educational but entertaining Clash of Clans videos, be sure to drop a subscribe and also turn on the notification bell. So the first thing that I look for when I am thinking about using the Yeti Smash is what can I Grand Warden walk. If you can walk a multi-inferno or maybe even a scattershot or the eagle, that is huge value. What do I mean by that? So the Grand Warden has greater range than any of the other heroes, greater than the Queen, and he's incredibly powerful. So he can take down an area of the base very easily. He can set the funnel very widely into the inside of the base as well, which is the buildings on the inside obviously, which is not always something you can do, especially not if you're using the P.E.K.K.A. to funnel. And he's very easy to control. All you need to do is put troops within his aura in order to switch him to support mode and pull him away from his current path. However, if you can reach a defense into the base itself, you can not only get that pathing, but you can get really good value. Now the Yeti Smash tends to be a very fast attack, so you can afford a good minute if not longer with the Grand Warden walk. I tend to aim around about 1 minute. You don't really want to be cutting it much further than that because there's 2 main things that cause you to fail. It's either running out of time or not setting up your funnel effectively, and we'll explain that in a second. In fact, let's go on to it now. We've already explained on one side the Grand Warden setting up the funnel, and we've essentially done the same on the other side using a bowler and wizards. Now you see that jump for everything to come in. There's nowhere else for them to go. As soon as the multi-inferno goes down, watch, there's no reason to not now start the attack. The funnel has been created, and look at the funnel we've got into the base as well. So if we draw a line here, there's actually nowhere else for the Yeti to go but straight through the base. That is what you want. With this strategy, it's all about getting that funnel initially and then you're good. You should not miss the 2 stars, but it depends on the town hall as well. On this one, notice it's over the other side. Often you will come into that town hall. I know I'm pausing the video, but then the gameplay wouldn't match what I'm teaching you guys, so that's why I pause as we go along. This one's more of a tutorial video obviously, but you've got to have a plan for that town hall. Often you will break the Yeti into the base by the town hall, but look down in the troop compositions. We've got the King and the Royal Champion as that backup plan. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is the spells. We've got 4 earthquakes coming into the center, which opens up the base massively. I tend to use 1 jump spell and 4 earthquakes. It does depend on pathing through the base. We've got different examples. We've got a great example coming up using the wall wrecker, in fact, kind of going back to that old school bow witch style attack. But look at where you get the most value. It's not a case of just using the earthquake initially because it makes a greater path. Yes, it does do that, but you've got to look at the damage it does on all of these defenses, look, which is huge, but also it opens up a lot more layers in terms of pathing. Now, once the Yeti are into the middle, rage them troops. I cannot stress this enough. When you've got all of your Yetis taking huge damage, the Yeti mites have to do work in the center. Use your Grand Warden's ability, get a rage or 2 in there, and freeze the scatter shots and any other defenses around it. Don't just plonk the freeze on top of the scatter shot, see what else you can freeze. Now at this point, it might look like the Yeti are going down, it's not necessarily looking great, but there's nothing left. There's 1 multi-target Inferno, which our troops are about to get to. As we mentioned, we very wisely here, Boga of Red Elite, coming in with the King and the Royal Champion down to that Town Hall. A nice use of them 2 troops to get it. Siege Barracks continues to create the funnel over on that other side, with the Hog Riders then coming in and around. A really good touch to use the Siege Barracks, because it allows the Yeti to gut out the core for the Hog Riders to move around. Now, if it's a war attack and you know that your Hogs will go to an area, they'll be exposed by themselves, you might actually commit a heal spell to that area as well. It just depends, but generally speaking, Rage and Freeze are your best friends, because remember, you are committing quite a few spells for the pathing of the base. Now, there's a lot of things we didn't mention in this first attack. I've got 3 replays for you in this video, so we've got 2 others coming up as well. Let's go ahead and dive across to the next one. This is the replay which uses the wall wrecker. Now, I really like it because it takes advantage of the base, having the town hall at the opposite side. Yes, it's a little bit more risky, but if you can save onto your spells, then you've got them to be a bit more flexible. So only 1 jump spell is used here, and you will notice in the army composition that this one uses bowlers. 2 single target Infernos, which if we are accessing the base from 6 o'clock, which, spoiler alert guys, we are, you're not going to be able to get to the singles easily. So the P.E.K.K.A. might be exposed, but also once you're in the center here, buildings are quite tight together. We'll get really good bowler bounce value, so that is why they are chosen. Again, the Grand Warden walk is used. Now, it doesn't have to take down a key defense. We mentioned the multi-Inferno in the first one. He's a great funneling troop, because he can wipe out the buildings, and then you can path him into the base as well. Very easy, very cheap, doesn't cost anything, so that's why people will use him. The only thing it costs is time, and that actually is something to take note of. I want to talk about the wall wrecker here, so I'll pause for a second. The Grand Warden, whilst it is a free funnel, what we mean by that is your Grand Warden is then used within your troop composition. It's great. You didn't actually use any troops to take out these buildings. Why would you not do that? Well, if that takes 30 seconds to get through, that's a significant portion of your time. You might commit troops to it in order to save time. So that's something people tend to forget about. Don't spend forever, even if you are getting good value, because ultimately you might still run out of time. I like the Ice Golem just to help tank initially whilst we're not putting huge amounts of troops through, and then the Wall Wrecker is going to be able to come straight through the base. Nice and easy, no single target Inferno. The Bowlers and Yetis are quickly in as well in order to help tank for it, very similar to them old school Bow Witch style attacks. Now, it gets a little bit unfortunate that the Grand Warden decides to jump a wall here, and has to use his ability because the expos were locked on. However, it provides good tanking initially, and I guess it's not the end of the world. Having the extra spells means that when we are in the heart of the base, you saw how chunky this bit is, and that's where the bowlers are going to get good value. We've got a rage, we've got a heal, we've got a freeze. Huge amounts of spell slots in that area, but it's needed. Sometimes you have to really commit in an area to get through it, and we had the funnel. That's why the bar Barbarian King went around the outside to maintain the funnel on this side to keep the troops coming through. It's not just funneling initially. What we want in this one is a clear-cut funnel through the base, which means you've got to consider the inside edges, and often that is where the Royal Champion can come into play in order to help out. The other thing you can use the Royal Champion for is to wait and adapt. So in this one, we get all of the way to the town hall. We know that's gone down. What is the main threat right now? Royal Champion could either come into the right, would easily take down these defenses, but ultimately the single target Inferno is the main target. So the Royal Champion comes in to try and help take that down. Do need to use the ability as well. If your Royal Champion is locked onto by the single Inferno, press the ability, otherwise you will miss it. Yes, the automatic ability goes off, but ultimately the single target, as the Royal Champion activates, will take her down quicker than you can use it, and in this case saves the raid in fact. But again, for the Yeti Smash, all you want is the core of the base gutted. Major defenses down in terms of the scatter shots, the splash damages. Once you've done that, the Royal Champion could come around the edge of the base, get huge value. If you're not using the Wall Wrecker, you might use the Hog Riders inside these siege barracks. That can be used in order to swipe around the side as well. And the other thing I didn't mention in the first attack was some cleanup troops. This is always something which people forget, but it can be very common, especially when you're using your Royal Champion to wipe out defenses in area. You've got 3 buildings to take out, nothing protecting them. Just get a wizard or 2 in there to help you out. Let's move to the final attack of this video. This attack is really cool to show you because it uses yet another siege machine and shows the diversity of the Yeti Smash. The Stone Slammer, used primarily to take out an area of the base. Let's go ahead and start this one. You can see that 7 Yetis are used alongside 3 P.E.K.K.A. I believe that arguably the bowlers would have worked well here as well, because we're setting up the funnel and punching in this way. There's a lot of buildings which you could get good value from, but I believe the P.E.K.K.A. would have been used here, because when you get to the end and your troops are going to split, if that is naturally going to happen, you don't want bowlers to split. You want P.E.K.K.A. which have a bit more damage, a bit more tankiness, and they should be able to get through a little bit easier. So, let's get into it. Remember the 2 key things we talked about. Get your funneling set up first for your Yeti to get into the base. So the Grand Warden takes out this entire compartment. Yes, he is starting to walk, but remember, as soon as we put troops within this aura, it's going to pull him back. So that is all good. We've got this side taken out, King is taking out the other side, and essentially we are creating that pathing we talked about to get into the base and straight to the town hall. Clear shot to it, so it is an easy 2-star. The one thing you might be saying is, well, this scatter shot is well out of the way. It's going to be doing huge damage down onto my troops when they're in the center. That's actually where the Stone Slammer comes in. Really like that in order to wipe it out. So let's continue. Once we've created the funnel, as we have, remember it's about pathing through the base. So this one, jump spell initially, could have used an earthquake, but doesn't get any extra value here from the earthquake. It's not like it opens up a huge proportion of the base. It's not like it's a questionable funnel and you need a bigger gap in the base. The Yeti are clearly coming in here, so use what is most efficient, and the jump is most efficient because then when we get to this area, look, we can get so much more value from the 4 earthquakes. What you've got to think is, whilst a jump spell could work here, if we can get 25% damage from even just 1 earthquake onto the town hall, Inferno, Scattershot, maybe the Eagle, depending on how you position it. That is huge value. You're getting about 50% in total off all of them buildings. That means just a couple of Yeti Mites will take it through. Definitely worth it in terms of spell slots to be used. So again, we're through into the base. Use the Grand Warden's ability, I haven't really mentioned this, either through the Giga Bomb, but often you can sideswipe the town hall. This is a tip which I haven't shown you in this video, in any of the replays. If you can get into a compartment, let's say here, and you can come along this compartment next to the town hall, your Queen and Yeti Mites will jump across, take that out, and the Giga Bomb will not then affect your troops. So it's something to consider, but generally speaking, you'll be using the Grand Warden's ability over that Town Hall, or when the Scatter Shot is doing major damage. Obviously, combine it in with the Eagle. Another pro tip is actually sending in a couple of loons as coconut loons when you push in the Yetis. I know people use them initially for the Grand Warden, but send a couple in with the Yetis so that when you use your Grand Warden's ability and a rage spell, they split up, the balloons move through the base very quick, and you might take some SAMs out, because one of the other ways that this attack will fail is if your healers go down quickly. You've got to protect your healers to keep your Yeti and P.E.K.K.A bowlers alive. And there you go, guys. Another brilliant attack. I've tried to keep it simplified but in depth, if that makes sense, as I do with all of my tutorial videos, so that the majority of people can get the most benefit from them. Also, I do think that I mentioned the troop composition. You need a starting block. A lot of people say, oh, you can just be totally customized to the base. Whilst that's true and whilst that's awesome, it's really hard to learn a strategy without having some guidance. So like I said at the start, probably the first replay is the one that has the best generic troop composition, but if you want to see more attacks and how I personally use the Yeti Smash, I did the video yesterday in Legends League. Is it still the best Town Hall 13 attack strategy? Well, it's certainly still one of them. I will link it here, guys. I'll also pop it in the pinned comments for you, but you've made it this far, click the video right there to go ahead and watch the one from yesterday using the Yeti Smash in Legends. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, but if not, we will see you back here again tomorrow. Until then, peace out.